During the speech, this response to immigration was not political at all. It was purely pragmatic and practical. But of course it was. It was obviously a response to the local elections a couple of weeks ago.
Keir Starmer's speech yesterday on immigration has caused an absolute storm, with both the left and the right attacking him for it. But wait until you hear the responses of Kevin Maquire and Susanna Reid on Good Morning Britain to his speech. It's quite something.
No doubt about it. Of course it is. Look, the white paper's been in the pipeline for some time, but I think they probably brought it forward because of the reform response. But I still think I was stunned to hear that phrase from the Prime Minister, because I thought instantly, didn't Enoch Powell say almost the same in that infamous speech? But I still think he's tapped in. He doesn't mind this big row and everybody talking about this. He wants people to think he's being muscular and strong and tough on immigration. That's what he wants people to think, and it's upset a lot of Labour MPs. He couldn't care less, because what he thinks is he might get people who are going to vote for reform coming back to Labour. But actually, there are people who do feel strangers in their own country, in their own towns and communities.
There are not many of them.
Because these towns have changed
not many
a lot. If you go to the 2021 census, I think...
Wait till Andrew puts him in his place.
95% of people over 65 are white. If you look at the number of in primary schools, it's about 64, 65%. This country is changing fast and dramatically.
It's shocking.
People are some people are uncomfortable.
No. Most people like the change.
No, Kevin, I'm going to finish my sentence if you don't mind.
Oh dear, it's getting fiery.
Stop it.
Okay.
A lot of people
I thought
feel...
you had finished your sentence.
No, I haven't. A
Of
lot of people
respect.
feel very, very uncomfortable about the way this country is developing. And that's what Starmer kicked
Could be.
yesterday.
Enoch Powell could have said all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look,
for God's sake.
if I was you, I'd push that away. Most people are quite comfortable where they live. Now, there are some people who aren't. You can have a concern about migration, that's fine. And you can have a concern about the change, particularly if you're not involved, you're not consulted, and we don't get people mixing enough. All that is fine. Yeah. But I would have thought every cabinet minister now will be terrified of asking, do you feel like a stranger on your island?
Well, I live in the most diverse city
Listen to Susanna.
in the UK, London.
We're in it now.
And I don't feel like a stranger.
No.
I feel like I'm in a really rich,
Vibrant.
multicultural society.
In London, I live in...
But
Yeah, it's all right if you live in Notting Hill or wherever she lives and you live in some posh area where the crime rates aren't through the roof.
Of touch with people who this phrase is going to chime with. Because I don't really understand. Just because someone has come from another country doesn't mean that they're a stranger.
No.
You don't understand because you live in a bubble, Susanna.
To me.
No, well,
so what's he getting at, other than being divisive?
I think he's trying to appeal to the people who do feel strangers and really alienated. And what he is doing is legitimising Nigel Farage and reform rather than confronting them and the other issues.
Well, he's going after the reform vote. He was speaking to reform voters, clearly.
He's going to do that, Richard. I speak to Labour MPs in the House of Commons. I'm based there. That's my office. I go to Westminster, the Palace of Westminster every day. Those who went to Runcorn and Helsby, where Labour lost that by-election by 6 votes, you know the issue that came up on the doorstep? And it kept coming back at them, at these Labour MPs, why we're not voting for you. And Labour lost a seat with a 15,000 majority. It went to reform. Winter fuel allowance and PIP disability cuts. It wasn't, people weren't saying we're not voting for you because of migration. So he's ignored how he's punched his Labour voters in the face on withdrawing the winter fuel allowance and threatening to cut disability benefits, and he's focusing on migration and legitimising reform.
While he was making that speech, which, by the way, was a masterclass in hypocrisy, because it conflicted with everything he ever said when he was leader of the opposition. He was taking a complete reverse position.
Well, he was a strong proponent of open borders.
So there we go. Absolutely shocking debate there with both the comments from Kevin and Susanna. Then Andrew Pearce speaking sense, really analysing the situation well there, putting Kevin in his place when he kept trying to interrupt him. But I mean, you know, Kevin and Susanna acting as though, you know, it's barely anybody in the country except some, you know, they're very much insinuating that it's, you know, it's a few crazy racists and far-right reform voters who feel like strangers on their island, even though actually, you know, what Keir Starmer was saying, it's potentially becoming an island of strangers. Like, a lot of people resonated with that, and yes, you may have these people who live in their bubble and think that multiculturalism is the best thing in the world, will go against that, but They are so out of touch, these two. Let's take a look at some of the comments on Twitter. Dan Wotton says, "Dear Susanna Reid, yes, you are horribly out of touch. It stuns me that you cannot see the destruction of London. My partner's sister arrived from Scotland last week and was mugged within 1 minute of leaving the tube. Stop the platitudes, wake up and serve your audience." Pretty damning. And we've got some more. This guy says Susanna is out of touch. For her, diversity is a bit of fun. She doesn't live in a neighbourhood where the local pub is being converted to a mosque. Her neighbours are maybe diverse but also secular, not religious fundamentalists with long beards and burqas. And Martin Gauci says, "Susanna, your comments about feeling at home in London's rich multicultural society are deeply out of touch with the reality that many Londoners face daily. The crime rates, particularly violent and sexual offences, have skyrocketed, and it's disingenuous to ignore the correlation with unchecked immigration policies. The Met Police's own data shows a significant strain on resources, with detection rates for serious crimes like rape plummeting, leaving women like yourself feeling frightened for good reason." Exactly. If you live in an area of London that is very wealthy, you may have low crime rates. You may have people who are from many different cultures living around you, but the only people who are able to afford the homes around you are, you know, good, hardworking people with proper jobs, not people with machetes, right? So, you know, she really, really showed herself there to be completely out of touch. So did Kevin, acting as if it's only a few people that feel like strangers on their island, i.e. Britain. So yeah, interesting stuff there. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Reasoned if you've not already.